Hello everyone, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're looking at part 3 and the final part in my multiplayer match versus Bluefin. This is part 3 of the first round of the 2017 Multiplayer Championships, or Multiplayer World Championships, whatever it's called, for Panzer Corps, a Matrix and Slytherin game, which is made by the Lord's Games Studio. There was a tournament, or is a tournament, running looking at kind of competing. 64 different players are competing to earn the title of World Champion for Panzer Corps. It's sort of an esports effort from the war game community, and this is my first round match. I entered in the tournament of some 64 players, and this is round 1. As you can see here, things are going relatively well. We're currently looking at the Con front. We're playing the Battle of the Bocage, and I'm playing as the Americans. So if we're actually looking on the right flank here, we have taken Con, we are driving on other objectives on the right, and this is the area that we are the most tied up in. We are 12 turns into a 17-turn match, and so far I'm sitting on more or less a victory. It's a matter of maintaining that victory against enemy counterattack. We've had a lot of difficulty in attacking down the right side of the map, so we've lost quite a few casualties there. You can see our Sherman tank is just battered all to hell and will almost certainly die next turn with another enemy counterattack. But that's okay, because while we have taken Con, which is not an objective, by the way, and we've slowly begun advancing sort of down the eastern side of the map at these two objectives here. You can see these German flags with the little gold or yellow highlight around them represent objectives. While we're in the process of advancing down the eastern side of the map, that's all the sideshow. We have two objectives there that we haven't taken, but if we look at the left portion of the map, or the western portion of the map along the coast, you can see here we have obtained almost all of our objectives. We've taken two objectives here in the northwest, we've taken one here on the southwest, and we've got one more German objective we need to take kind of in the center of the map. If we take this center objective here that we're moving troops toward right now in front of you, we will win the battle, assuming we can hang on to everything, and assuming we don't get counterattacked out of our position. We would win the battle from here. Now, I'm in the process of moving forces in against these enemy positions here. You can see they've got an anti-aircraft battery that we're hitting with artillery. And I did move some infantry up, maybe a little too rashly, move them into adjacent to this objective. And because of that, when you move infantry more than their marching ability, when you move them where they have to mount up on their trucks to move, if you move them that way, then they can't dismount that same turn, which basically means that those infantry are going to stay on those trucks and stay incredibly vulnerable to German counterattack, which I am certain Bluefin will launch against me next turn. So those infantry are going to be given a rough time, but fortunately we've got quite a few troops here on this side of the map, and frankly it doesn't seem like the enemy has much in the way of reserves to resist us. So he's got some anti-aircraft guns, which could make things a little bit difficult for our aircraft. But other than a lone anti-aircraft battery and infantry detachment, this objective seems mostly empty. It seems like the majority of the German striking power is off to the east, defending these two objectives here, but all that'll really do is prevent us from winning a major victory. In order to win, we just have to hold 6 victory locations, which we will hold as long as or actually I think it's 4 victory locations. But at the end of the day, we will hold those objectives if we take this last German objective that we're starting to mass around here in the center. So at the end of the day, the right flank, and I know I'm saying that phrase a lot, but the right flank is more or less just a sideshow. It's more or less something that we need to do in order to tie up all of the German forces over there so that they can't race in behind us and attack any of the objectives we've already taken. But outside of that, it's really sort of a secondary front. So I'm going to go ahead and place some new infantry here to kind of guard our objectives here in case the enemy do make a lunge at us. But overall, I think we're in relatively good shape, and we'll see kind of as we move forward if that ends up being the case. But we're massing troops against the one objective we still need to take. The other two objectives we're kind of demonstrating against. We're making an effort for them, but at the end of the day, whether we take them or not is kind of immaterial to the end result of the battle. With that being said, we're coming up toward the end of turn 12, and we're about ready to turn it over to the Germans to see what they do on their own initiative. I don't think the Germans have much more in the way of striking power. It seems like the German player has spent a lot of money on infantry and a little bit on artillery there. You can see some Nüberwerfers firing at our infantry, and actually they just wiped out that infantry unit. So a little bit of a tougher nut to crack than I expected on the on that center objective. We don't want to take him for granted or anything like that. So at the very least, if we, assuming we still take this objective, it's going to take a little bit longer. Meanwhile, the Germans are acting very aggressively here over toward Caen. They're moving some troops up a rail line, actually. I guess they didn't expect to see us there to try and retake this town. And on the frontal attack near Caen, or the counterattack near Caen, they're directly wiping out multiple units of ours there as well. So our advance down the rail line appears to have stalled. I'm kind of shifting some forces back to deal with the casualties we've taken, bringing in some air support as well to try and help blunt the German assaults. And in all honesty, at this point, kind of just going through the motions here on this flank. Again, I've already said it, but my end objective over here is just to kind of tie the Germans down so that they can't shift forces toward the center. The center does look to be a tougher nut, though. The Germans have at least 2 Luftwaffe artillery units in support. Fortunately, I have 3 artillery units of my own in support. I've got 2 howitzer batteries and a 105 that is mounted on a Sherman. I've also got a couple of armored units and a couple of infantry units, which can move up. My key focus here is taking out the anti-aircraft battery, as I'm working on right now, hitting it hard with artillery, and then with that last infantry assault, I'll go ahead and move this armor up as well in order to try and finish it off. The anti-aircraft fire, if we can destroy this anti-aircraft unit, as we just did, now we can bring our air units in to hit these German artillery pieces. So we've still got the 105 Sherman here this turn, but really now that we've destroyed the enemy anti-aircraft gun, we can more easily reduce their artillery support. Artillery is an incredibly effective weapon in this game in using it in support against enemy units, but at the end of the day, if it is exposed, or if you can use counter battery fire or air units against it, it dies very fast. So you can see here I'm not racing that infantry unit, rather I'm actually reinforcing it. I'm not going to repeat the mistake of last turn and race it in there in its trucks only to get killed. And I'm bringing additional reserves down. So I had 1 troop back here on this objective. I just bought another troop the previous turn in the general area, so if the enemy do make a thrust at this objective, I've got a couple of troops here in their way. The most likely thrust would kind of be along this road line, which my troops are positioned to stop, and advancing south along the more western road will also allow me to stop any enemy threat, but we've also got armor along that roadway too, so it seems unlikely that they'll make a thrust at that objective point. If they do, I think I'm in decent position to at least delay until I'm able to reposition some other forces. Meanwhile, on that center objective here, as we've said, the anti-aircraft unit is destroyed. There's 2 artillery units there. You can see that first artillery bombardment that I did a few moments ago took out almost half of the enemy artillery strength. The Luftwaffe is a very good artillery piece, but it's also very fragile, as most artillery pieces are. I found out that the German self-propelled guns that have a little bit of armor to themselves are actually pretty resistant. If you're operating in a high-threat environment where it's likely your artillery is going to get attacked by enemy infantry, use the German self-propelled guns because they actually give pretty good. Meanwhile, I'm starting to run out of ammo on some of my artillery units, so I'm going to have to kill 1 turn, 1 unit next turn, in order to kind of replenish its ammo. So just have to kind of basically allow that artillery unit to do nothing. Meanwhile, the other 2 look okay. You get a red ammo icon, red like kind of bullet clip icon when your troops are running out of ammo. You get a yellow one when they're down to, I believe it's down to 1 ammunition point left. So you kind of get a little bit of a warning, not much, but a little bit of a warning. You can always hover over the unit if you're curious to see how many actual shots it has left. An individual shot is used up each combat that occurs. So if the enemy attacks us as they just did that infantry unit there, that would use 1 ammunition. If we were to attack an enemy unit, then it would use 1 ammunition. If you are in combat with an enemy unit and they hit you with artillery, that doesn't use anything. But basically, if your unit shoots off weapons at the enemy, then it does use some of their ammunition here. You can see here we're using some air units. Now that we've destroyed that enemy flak emplacement, we just strafed them with some fighter bombers, or more or less fighters. And we're going ahead and replenishing some of our tactical bombers units hitting power. The Germans did purchase a new infantry unit that's just outside this objective here, so they're getting a little bit stronger. We need to close in because once you're adjacent to an enemy hex, they can't purchase new units, but because we're more than a hex away in this particular turn, they can. Meanwhile, we're going to go ahead and use, I think we're going to use some of what we have left for our artillery here to soften these guys up. It's surprising that our heavy infantry can move so little per turn without switching over to these sort of jeep things or trucks that would prevent them from being able to unlimber and then fight effectively. So I'm just kind of trying to debate where I want to put my 105 Sherman. I want to get more enemy units in range of its artillery, and you know, then hopefully we can help slowly reduce these enemy pieces here. So we've got an enemy infantry unit in range of our howitzer, but no artillery. I'm going to go ahead and replenish the howitzer that is out of ammo, and then I'm going to go ahead and shift the other howitzer south. Unfortunately, it doesn't bring the enemy Nova into range, but we can at least hit that enemy infantry there. Meanwhile, our Shermans are actually really low on fuel. I'm just trying to kind of gauge where they'd be best placed. And it seems like if I move them over here to the right to this roadway, they can actually do more damage to this full-strength Nubawaffe than they can the suppressed one. Still, I'm going to attack the suppressed one, if only because my objective is to destroy these enemy units, and if I can kind of isolate them, I can kind of take one and then the other. Because what happens is, when you attack an enemy artillery unit, if there's another one close by, it will fire in its defense when you attack. So really, you have to go through 2 lines of artillery, one before you even reach your objective, and one once you already get there. So again, attempting to split their focus by destroying one and then the other. Now, we did push the artillery unit back, so it did retreat, but it might have actually been better to attack the other artillery unit that we didn't, given that we had a predicted 0 to 3 kill-to-death ratio. Meanwhile, here around Khan, we just destroyed the first of the enemy units that counterattacked us and have now engaged another one of them in front of this other objective. You can see here they are fighting like devils. They just inflicted 5 casualties on us for only 2 on them. Meanwhile, we've got another infantry unit kind of coming in their rear, but this battle has devolved into infantry as our own get ambushed there. It started out with a lot of armor, German Tigers, German Panther tanks, German Stug assault guns, American Sherman tanks, Sherman 76s. I believe there was a British, I don't know if it was a Firefly or a Churchill. We had a whole bunch of high-tech weapons, a bunch of bombers, a bunch of aircraft. We still have quite a bit of artillery, but at the end of the day, this fight is really turning into an infantry fight, and it seems to be, you know, we both used and burned up through the majority of our high-tech and fancy weapons, and rather than spend money on replacing them, we've been spending money on infantry to kind of go back to the old school weaponry of infantry combat. And now we're just kind of dying back and forth. We counterattack and kill them. They attack back at us and kill us. We counterattack back against them and kill them, and vice versa. There you can see an enemy counterattack moving southwest from this objective. Meanwhile, another enemy Nova is on the scene here. So they appear to have 3 artillery units, although one of them is almost dead. That enemy counterattack pushed back our own infantry, and there you can see here actually their artillery advancing in support of their infantry left it exposed so that we could attack it there with that small infantry unit of ours. Didn't lose a single man because the enemy the other Nubawaffe is up by the objective, and that's what these rocket, you know, kind of cylinders, almost like firework looking type deals. They look like kind of a grouping of mortars all kind of strapped together. But that's what these things are. I'm calling them Nubawaffe. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation. But at the end of the day, he advanced his forward to support his infantry as he advanced. The problem was that left him out of range of his own artillery so that my relatively small unit could attack him without fear of reprisal. Meanwhile, this infantry unit also moved forward, and I think is out of range of the enemy artillery support. So I think I can actually attack with my armor and deal him a bit of a blow there. That's my thinking anyway. I could be wrong, but we'll go ahead and kind of make sure that we're maximizing our bombardment or suppression of enemy fire support before we go and attack this infantry. So I'm going to go ahead and call our tactical bomber in here. We're going to drop some bombs on these German artillery pieces, and once we've softened them up a little bit, we'll go ahead and strafe this enemy infantry as well. Once we've softened them up a little bit, then I think we'll go ahead and launch this attack with our tank, as we just did, and do a little bit of damage here. Drive them back, take the position, move our infantry forward. Well, maybe not. They're a little bit weak. go ahead and hit these guys with artillery, almost destroy them with our artillery, then move our infantry forward and finish off what's left. That's a great example right there of combined arms right in front of you here, just a couple of turns before the end of this battle. Meanwhile, we're still trying to take this objective and kind of moving some of our other forces into position. We should have 3 fully fledged artillery units online next turn as we use our Sherman here against this enemy artillery. Again, in this case, they had artillery firing and support, so it wasn't quite as effective as it might have been. And this tank unit's actually low on fuel. You can see that little gas can in front of you is indicating that he's low on gasoline as well. Meanwhile, let's see here. This bomber hasn't moved yet. We'll move him back over the objective and go ahead and have him get some reinforcements next turn. The artillery here is almost dead, so we're going to go ahead and give him reinforcements. And we'll go ahead and advance our 1 remaining infantry unit around Khan. And, well, we've got 2. 1 in the east, 1 in the west. We'll go ahead and move the 1 in the east adjacent to this enemy infantry here. The troops moving south on the eastern side of that river that flows through Khan are not really getting anywhere. They've got 2 bunkers to go through, and they've got this enemy artillery piece that just won't die. It's been around seemingly forever. And meanwhile, we're kind of attacking, I don't know what objective this is, but we're attacking this objective from 2 sides. We've got the infantry on both sides. And the German infantry continues to be a pain in the ass here, inflicting more casualties on us than us on them. Hopefully they don't counterattack and destroy our infantry next turn. But I think we're just about done with this turn as well. We're almost ready to jump into the second to last turn in this particular fight. So far, it's been an interesting fight, a relatively even fight, although it does feel like a fight that's kind of preordained to go our way. You know, we did well early. We had that kind of decisive turn. I want to say it was 3 or 4 where we destroyed an enemy Jag Panther, a heavy enemy anti-tank weapon, an enemy Tiger unit. And I want to say the Panther tank was destroyed that turn or the turn after. And as a result, he lost sort of the cream of his armored crop, the strength of his hitting power, you know, the forces that he would have needed to hold us off and be able to counterattack us when we had limited successes. So, you know, that coupled with our destruction of his 2 fighter units that kind of doomed his control of the air as well, I think also played a role, because he could have, while we didn't have, you know, a ton of air units for him to attack with his fighters, he could have probably effectively used his fighters against our artillery to greatly weaken us. A large portion of our success here on the Western Front area has been due to the fact that we've got those 3 artillery batteries that just overpower anything he has to play. Even when he brings in 3 rocket artillery pieces, we're able to isolate and destroy one so that by the time he's actually able to play, he doesn't have much in the way of artillery arrayed against us. All right, with that being said, it seems like we're kind of coming up on the close of this multiplayer match. I hope you guys have enjoyed this 3-video series looking at the 2017 Multiplayer Championship and my efforts to bring home the title. You know, the fight is going all right. We're in the process of taking this final objective that we need to take anyway. And as we do so, I guess I'm kind of curious from all of you as I kind of work through the last couple of minutes of this video, if this is a series you've enjoyed or not. You know, the Panzer Corps stuff, I've got a lot of it, and it's been out for a long time, and I could understand being a little bit bored with it. But, you know, I wanted to bring this series to you to kind of illustrate an effort of showing esports here as we kind of, again, this works really well. Hit the enemy infantry with artillery, hit them with infantry, then when they retreat, hit them with tanks, and they're dead. That was a very successful turn. But I'm kind of curious about all of you. If this is something that you find worthwhile, you'll continue to watch. You know, I'm going to issue a spoiler alert. If you don't want to hear this spoiler alert, fast forward a minute and a half, and you will see what is coming. But I'm going to win this battle, and there's going to be a round 2, and I won't really discuss round 2 at all because, you know, obviously we haven't even started that. But I do want to know if that's something you guys would like to see here. You know, I'm not the best of Panzer Corps players. I do my best, but I think you've seen throughout this particular series that I haven't done a great job of kind of thinking 3 moves ahead, if you will. Like the famous podcast of that name, Three Moves Ahead, which is a reference to chess and how chess masters kind of always are out thinking their opponents, thinking ahead of their opponents, always considering the ins and outs of what can happen based on their placements a couple of moves ahead. And I don't do a good job of that in this particular game as we move in here to the 16th turn, or the playthrough for the Germans this turn. But I'm always curious what all of you think. So without rambling too much, and I hope I haven't done that yet, please leave your thoughts below. Meanwhile, here we're entering turn 17. Bluefin has wished me good game. I made 2 huge blunders that really hurt me early on. And I think this was a pretty close fight. The battle's not over. I've actually just kind of realized I've already taken the number of objectives I need. I don't technically need the center objective, but I'm going to go for it anyway. We're into the last turn here. We'll see what we can accomplish, and then we'll go from there. But it does seem like we will win the battle. It seems unlikely that a massive horde of German tanks are going to suddenly come out of somewhere and kill me. So we went ahead and launched an infantry attack there, destroyed that infantry unit. The enemy still has 2 artillery pieces that I'm going to go ahead and kind of bomb as best of my abilities. Anyway, we'll go ahead and strafe some with fighters. We'll go ahead and bring some TAC bombers over here and hit them. The American TAC bombers are really not very good. The Russian IL-2s and the German Ju-87s are very good tactical bombers, but the American ones are kind of subpar. They're almost all 2-enginers, and they just don't seem to be great. The British actually have a very good one as well in the Typhoon. The Americans, historically anyway, the P-47 ended up becoming a very good one. So I was kind of thinking to myself, well, wait a minute. Like, why are the Americans the only ones who don't have a good one? But actually they do in the Typhoon. Maybe it doesn't feel like it has enough hitting power in this game. As you can see here, I'm going ahead and I'm bombarding the enemy troops here in this town. One of my is already out of ammo. Brr. All right, well, we're going to have to kind of just hope we can force through this artillery here and, maybe take the objective despite heavy casualties. 3 and 3, we'll do our best here. The enemy is firing in support here, but actually now oh, wow. 6 casualties. Yikes. That attack was broken up hardcore by a very stout resistance by the Germans. And oh my goodness, they just almost wiped out that tank unit as well. They do not want to die. They are, they're bad at dying. Get better at that, guys. Be better at dying. Go ahead and maybe use our half-tracked armed troops to finish off that artillery piece, which we did. The other enemy artillery piece is out of ammunition. The rest of our troops have all moved, so that'll just about do it. With that being said, guys, that is a victory for us. I don't show the victory screen because I mess my capture up and fail to get that. But this battle is ending right now as a victory for the Allied forces under my command. So there will be a round 2, and I will likely show it on the channel based on your own thoughts. With that being said, until then, thanks for tuning in, guys. Once again, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out. Victory! Sorry about that. I couldn't resist.